Record. And I want to just kind of hear your story. Want to give the floor to you and just kind of hear this journey, how it has played out for you, and how you're feeling about everything. And we'll start from there.
Okay. When you're talking about my story, you mean my dating story, right? Okay. I have my journal next to me in case I need some reminders. Oh man, where to start? July 27th, 1992. That's when I was born. No, honestly, it's been interesting looking back when it comes to like my dating story. I like dated off and on throughout high school and kind of just, I don't know. I think when I was younger, I didn't really know how to date. I don't know if any teenager knows how to date really. But I dated, like I put quotations around dated this girl in high school, and it wasn't the best experience. And so like my introduction into dating wasn't great. Like she was very just, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it, but like, I mean, just flaky, you know? Where I was just like, she would only, it seems like we would only hang out, I guess, like when it was convenient. But there was another guy that she liked and all that jazz. And so I threw myself into the bus a lot when it came to that relationship, which seems to be a theme in my dating journey. But then I went on, served an LES mission to Baltimore, and I came back, and I remember talking with my companions while I was on my mission and just being like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to get married when I get home. I'll probably get married at like what, 23, 24. Like it'll be smooth, it'll be fine, it'll be great. And then I hit 23, 24, still wasn't married. And it's at that point where my goal was more like, it was more like getting married just to get married. Because that was just the next step. Then I was in school. I had started at UVU. And I was dating here and there, and I started dating a girl. And for the first 6 months, she had basically told me, like straight up, she was just like, I'm not in a good place. I don't know if you want to date me, all that stuff. And I learned from that where it was just like if people are telling you who they are, like believe them. But I was just like, no, you're a great person. Like, don't talk about yourself that way. That whole thing, like just wanting to basically fix her, you know, like just being like, I'm the guy that will get her to say yes rather than her beat around the bush. And so that then came back to the theme of like me throwing myself into the bus, because I just wanted to like make it work. And then ultimately it wasn't until, it was interesting, we were kind of like off and on a little bit, and then it wasn't until I was just super tired when I was just like, okay, I think I'm done. And like we talked about it, and then I was just like, yeah, I think I'm done. And I was at that point where when I like actually made that decision for myself and started doing my own thing, that she then actually like wanted a relationship. And I was like, of course. And so like a month went by after that, and and then one day I was out at, I had some close friends and we did Taco Tuesday. Every Tuesday we started doing that, and it was great. So we'd go to a restaurant and eat tacos in Orem. And I came home one night and my roommate, well, sorry, back up. The girl, my ex, she had texted me and said, "Hey, are you doing Taco Tuesday?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Why? And she was just like, "When are you gonna be home?" And I was like, "I don't know, like 9 maybe." Um, and she said she wanted to drop something off, and I was like, "Okay, well, I'll just text you when I get home." And then I got home, and my roommate was just like, "Hey, there's a girl here looking for you. Like, drop something off in your room." And I was like, "What?" And I went back there and there was just like candy all over the bed that just like had like notes written on it and stuff like she put like um the candy bar 100 grand.
Uh-huh.
She had put like 10 of those with a note, uh which was like I can't remember exactly what the note said, but it was like, please accept my $1 million apology, where it's just like, because 100 grand times 10. And I was like, that's clever. Anyway, so we talked about it and ended up getting back together. But at this point, when it came to like religion and my faith and that kind of thing, like I wasn't super active in the church, or in religion at all. And we, like 6-ish months after we got back together, we started talking about getting married. And I was like, "So, temple, like getting sealed?" And she was like, and I was like, "Oh." And I realized that was something that was important to me. And so that kind of rekindled my faith. And I was like, "Oh, the temple is something that I actually like want." And so it was nice that I was able to start working towards that. And I think that was my first like real like big experience in um not like just having a non-negotiable. I'm pretty sure that was my first like experience in realizing a non-negotiable that I had, where I was just like, no, I want to get sealed in the temple. If I'm getting married to somebody, I'm not getting married to them temporarily. Like, it's going to be forever. Um, so we broke up because that didn't work. And then still dating off and on throughout the next few years. And it wasn't until when I was doing my first master's degree, my master's in social work, I was talking with one of my classmates just about life. And I was kind of just like, "How are you like so confident? Like, you don't put a lot of weight into dating." And I don't know how that is. And she was just like, she's like, "A couple years ago, I just realized that I need to be myself outside of dating and just find out who I really am and like not care about dating all that much." And I was like, "That's so interesting." Because there's just so much like pressure, either implied or not implied, where it's just like, okay, like look for somebody to date, look for somebody to marry. And that was a big part of everything that I did. And I remember us talking about how when I would go on dates, if I wanted to like impress the girl, it would be kind of just like therapy Dan would come out, or like I would drop the whole like, "Oh yeah, I majored in social work, got a bachelor's, and like I got a master's degree, and then I got a second master's degree in law," and like kind of use that as my backdrop rather than talk about who I really was and that kind of thing. So I would still go on dates, but during those 2 years, it was really nice to um, find out more about who I am. I took what my friend said to heart and wanted to find out more about me and spend time with myself and all that jazz. And I felt like I grew a lot in that year and a half to 2 years. And then after I graduated with my master's in law, my second master's, that's when I started having, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it's basically an existential crisis, I guess, for lack of a better term. But it was just like I've been in school, like my wait, what?
Law school has that effect, I've heard.
Yeah. But I enjoy doing therapy, but I have also felt like pulled toward other things, and so I was just like, I don't know exactly what I want to do. So I was like, I felt stuck. Not really sure what else to do. And I had money left over from, I think it was from my loan, like my last part of my student loan for the last semester. And so I was kind of living off that for a minute. And I can't remember exactly what happened, but I was just scrolling through Instagram, and I saw something that you posted. I don't remember if it was a story or a actual post or whatever. But then I reached out, and I can't even remember exactly what I said, but just reached out and said, hey, I have questions about dating. Can we actually talk about things? And he was like, yeah, let's set up a call. And so we set up one of the one-time calls for like $100. And I was like, okay, cool. And we talked, and it was a good time. And then like you offered your program, and like it felt good, but at the same time I was like, oh gosh, like that's like the money's a lot and that kind of thing. But I remember you were just like, I mean, that makes sense if it's too much money, but also at the same time, like, why not invest in who you want to be? And I posted about this the other week, but I remember listening to a podcast, and I think it was, do you know Lewis House? You heard of him? He has this podcast called The School of Greatness. And so he, on one of those podcast episodes, it was basically, it was a recording of Matthew Hussey, who's a dating coach, speaking at like a conference that Lewis House puts on.
Mm-hmm.
And he was basically just saying like, there's so many people that look for, that aren't afraid to ask for coaching from like a career coach or like from a finance coach or whatever it is. Like if you don't know how to play a sport, like you hire a coach. If you go to the gym and you don't know how to work out, you hire a trainer, like that kind of thing. And he was just like, why not do the same thing for dating? Like if you don't know how to date, if it's not working out for you, there's no shame in hiring a coach or a trainer to help you learn how to date. And I was like, that's a really good point. So that's why when we talked, that's why I was like, I remember that podcast, and I was just like, yeah, that's a good point. And so I was like, okay, let's do it. And I was just like terrified because not because of like you or what was going to happen, but more because I'd never spent that kind of money on something like this, something that seems so trivial. Because like the what?
On you?
Yeah, on me, right? Well, it's like I'm kind of like I had spent that kind of money on me, but it was like for a car or like something that seemed more like necessary or something that was a necessity. Because I was like, oh, I need a car, I need to get around and that kind of thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when it came to like my growth and my internal growth and how I saw myself and my mental health and that kind of thing, like I had never spent money like that on doing something to improve myself. So I was nervous about it. But I remember you saying like the reason why well, two reasons why it costs so much is because A, like you're good at what you do, which is true. And B, like in order for me to take it seriously, like it needed to hurt financially. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And it worked because I was just like spending exorbitant amount of money on this program. And I was just like, if I'm putting all this money into it, like I'm gonna get something out of it. Like I don't care what's gonna happen. Like I'm gonna put effort into it to make sure that I get something out of it. And I did.
Show off that ring.
But no, it was good because we started talking, and I remember there were like a lot of beliefs that I needed to challenge. Of like there were girls that I wanted to impress and other things that I wanted to do. And I remember I wasn't really working on any projects. There wasn't really anything that I was doing for myself. And that was like one of the goals of just like, are there projects that you want to do? Like I had ideas about cosplay and stuff like that. And you're just like, just work on your cosplay. Like, and if they don't text you back, like don't worry about it. And it's basically just the thought of like those who are interested in you, like you're gonna know. And if you don't know, then like I remember it was kind of like this. I remember Matthew Hussey talking about this too, where he said, like, if you're not sure about me, then I am definitely not sure about us. And it was basically, like you said, basically the same thing, where it's just like, if you have confusion about whether or not this person likes you, like that's not what you want. And it's just like, if somebody likes you, like you're gonna know it. And it was true. Like yeah. So I met this girl who's not my wife, and we were like going on dates and hanging out a lot and all sorts of stuff. But she was kind of dragging her feet a little bit, and like she was kind of like showing me in a way that she liked me and stuff like that. And I had like met her parents and all that jazz. But for me, I was still kind of confused because I was just like, why are you like introducing me to all these people that are important to you if at the same time you're like nervous about being in a relationship? It was basically like we were in a relationship without like the title. And it's not that the title means everything, but it's also at the same time, like I feel like the label and that kind of thing kind of means commitment in a way, where it's just like we're committed to each other. That's why we have the labels, is so that people on the outside don't get confused when they're just like, are you dating somebody? It's like, yes, I am. So I was kind of waiting for that. But I was going on dates with other people because I was basically just like, I have no idea what this girl wants. And I was working at Provo Canyon Behavioral Hospital. It's a mental hospital. And my wife was working there at the same time. That's one of our favorite things to say. That's when people are like, how'd you guys meet? And we're just like, we met at a mental hospital. And they're like, wait.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, really? Yeah. No, it's great. And they're just like, who was the patient? And it was like, neither of us. Like, we both work there. It's fine. But I was like, doesn't mean we're not crazy. So she was working there and we had become friends. Just would like talk. She was a care specialist, which is like she would watch the patients at the hospital to make sure that they didn't hurt themselves or each other. Because some of them would come in for suicidal ideation, some people would come in for hallucinations or whatever it was. So she was mainly up on like the kids unit upstairs. And so I'd go up to like make copies of charts and that kind of thing, because I worked with the insurance people. So I would make charts just so I could fax information to insurances and basically just be like, okay, this person is still struggling. They still need to be here. We need their care paid for. So we talk about school, and she was doing her bachelor's in neuroscience, and like we would talk about finals and how that was going and all sorts of stuff. And Sarah told me that like we had another friend who was up there on that unit who was a girl, and every time I'd come in and like talk with our other friend, whose name is Kylie, Sarah would, like, she says she wasn't interested in dating all that much because she had just gone through a breakup earlier that year, and she was just working on herself and all that jazz. And then she said that when she would see me talking with Kylie, then she would like subconsciously or like unconsciously like get jealous, and she's like, why is he talking to her? I want him to talk to me. And then she was like, oh, that's interesting. Just like kind of realize that. So then eventually, and I realized that like she liked me a little bit because because there was a guy that was there, and he's a really nice guy. His name's Ryan, and he was the copier guy. He would fix copiers and reload them with paper and make sure that things were working fine, because we needed to print a lot and like copy things. And he was up there at the nurse's station upstairs constantly. And Sarah like had the hardest time remembering his name, even though he was up there like all the time. And I was up there maybe once or twice a day. And every time I would walk in, if she saw me, she'd be like, hi, Dan. And I was just like, okay, you don't remember like anybody else's name, but you remember my name. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm picking up on this.
She took note.
Yeah. And so so we talk, and we would talk about normal school stuff, but then also nerdy stuff. Found out she's a fan of Star Wars and Marvel and all that jazz. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, this is gonna work out fine. So I'd added her on Facebook, and we had been talking earlier in one day we were talking about the season finale to The Mandalorian season 2. And I had watched it while I was at work, and then I went upstairs and I was like, I just watched The Mandalorian season 2 finale, and it's amazing. And she was like, don't tell me about it, I haven't seen it yet. And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. So then later that day, I had sent her a message because she like posted on her story. And I replied to her story, and I was just like, have you watched the episode yet? She was just like, no, not yet. Like, I'm doing stuff with my parents. I'll have to watch it later tonight. And I was just like, well, if you need a fellow nerd to geek out right next to you, like, let me know. And she's like, you can come watch it with me. I'm going to be at my parents' house. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so like I went over later that night to her parents' house to watch The Mandalorian with her and her dad. And like he's a, I know, right? But he's a super nice guy. Pretty sure I fell in love with him before I fell in love with her. He's just super nerdy. Like we watched the episode, and then afterwards, like he and I swapped fan theories for like an hour while Sarah was just sitting right there. Like she didn't really talk, and we didn't really talk to her. We were just shooting, and it was nice. It was great. So then she and I left their parents' house, and we were just talking outside near her car for like 20 minutes. And she punched me because I like nonchalantly said I had 2 master's degrees, and she was like, oh, what? And like socked me in the arm, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you beating me up? But then also at the same time, like Hitch popped into my head, where it's just like, if you didn't go to high school, hitting is a good thing. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's true.
Teaching that to some of my clients at the moment.
Oh really? Nice. Like yeah, she literally hit on me on our first interaction together. But so yeah, no, it was nice. And then I went home, and then the next day was Sunday, and so I tried calling her in the middle of the day, and she was in church, and I was like, I knew it. But then she called me back, and I was like, hey, I had a really great time last night. I was wondering if like this week you'd actually want to go on like an actual date. And she was just like, yeah, actually, that'd be a lot of fun. And I was like, what day are you available? And she's like, only tomorrow. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we went out on Monday night, and one of my friends, he and his wife decorate their house for Christmas, and they set the lights to music. They're one of those people out here in Pleasant Grove, and they were featured on this blog where there were like 9 or 10 houses all within a certain vicinity in Pleasant Grove, where they all had their houses, their lights set to music. And I was like, okay, that'd be super fun. So I picked her up and I told her the plan, and she was just like, did you know I love Christmas lights? Did you know that? And I was like, no, I didn't. And I was like, how about that? Look at yes. So we got our barbecue, and then we just drove around and looked at Christmas lights and just talked a lot and all sorts of stuff. And both of us remember like being on that date, and like we both approached it with like an I don't care what happens type of mentality, where it's like, I'm just gonna be myself, and if they don't like me, then cool. Just basically embraced rejection if it was headed that way. And so we went out on the date, and both of us, is like either the first or the second date, were kind of just like we went on a date, and both of us were kind of like, crap, because it was like we just knew that we liked the other person, and we're like, okay. So then we went on a second date. I think it was a week later, like the next Sunday, I went over to her place and we made dinner and watched a movie and all sorts of stuff. And then I think it was after that for like 2 weeks straight, because it was like the Christmas season, so we had a lot of work off and that kind of thing. So like for the next 2 weeks straight, I think we basically hung out like every day. And I think there were only a couple days that we missed. And so we were hanging out all the time. Eventually started dating. She was very like apprehensive, and I was not. I was just like, okay, let's try this out. Like the only way we're gonna know if this is gonna work is if we like do this. I remember I was in institute once, and our teacher was talking about dating and how like we take dating like a little too seriously sometimes, like take ourselves a little too seriously in dating. And he's like, this is what dating does. It's like you're a piece of a puzzle and you grab another piece of the puzzle, and it's like from this far away you can't tell if they're a match. You can like maybe guess, like you can see like if holes or whatever match up, like pieces match up. But to really know if they're a match or not, you have to get them close enough together to see if they match up. And sometimes like the pieces match up, but like the pictures don't match. So yeah, so that's why I was just like, let's like the main way we're gonna figure this out is if we date. And I was still going on dates with the other girl that I had mentioned earlier, named Emily, and I called her and said, hey, so we need to talk. But we weren't even dating. And so I was like, a kind of breakup, but it was like wasn't, because we weren't dating. But I called her and told her about the situation like with Sarah. And then she's like, oh man, I wish I would have known that, because she was planning on after the holiday season, like defining the relationship. And she was just like, I wanted to see if you wanted to date. And I was just like, well, great. And so I was like, okay, can you give me like a day or two to think about this and pray about it? She's like, yeah, sure. And I'm like, okay. So thought about it and felt about it and prayed about it and felt about it and thought about it. And
So you have two girlfriends at this point.
basically, yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. To like casual, not official yet. And so I prayed about it, and basically the answer that I got was just a question where it said, like, which girl makes you feel most like yourself? Or makes you feel like you can be yourself around them? And it was just like an apparent answer. I was just like, oh, yeah, Sarah. Because it's not that like the other girl was bad or anything like that, but it's like I just didn't feel like I could be my like total self. Like she took life a little too seriously, like more seriously than I did. And Sarah was just like she took like school seriously and that kind of thing, but she didn't really take herself seriously. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's nice. So stopped seeing Emily and then started seeing Sarah a lot more. And then eventually like we were talking about dating and she's like, I don't know. And then like later that night, this is like a few weeks later, like later that night, she we're just like on our phones, she's doing homework. And I'm just like, I think I was reading a comic book or something like that. So I was trying to get into comics. And she hands me a note that basically said like, hey, do you want to be my boyfriend? And like
Oh my
the
god,
with the boxes of yes or no.
that's so cute.
And I didn't check either yes or no. I created a new box that said since day one and then marked that one and handed it back to her. And then she wrote another question that said, do you want to make out? And with a yes and no. And I was like scribbled like yes like a million times. It was fun. But it was good. And then after that, like we started dating and we were dating for 3 weeks. I don't remember how long. But I basically like I knew pretty quick that I was just like, okay, yeah, this is special. This is good. Because it was like I was able to be myself, like work on the things that I wanted to work on. She liked me for who I was. I had told her like things about me that I was kind of not insecure about, but like that I feel like other girls would react like not great to, just about my past and like people I've been with and that kind of thing. But she was very accepting about all that and understanding. And she's like, it doesn't matter what you did in the past. It matters like where you are right now. And it's just like, are you good now? Are you okay? And I was just like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's like, okay, great. And I was like, well, that's awesome. Just like had a nice understanding of the atonement, how it worked and all that jazz. And then it was sometime in February where she was basically just like, and I had not proposed, not officially, but just talked about the idea of kind of just like, honestly, I could see us going somewhere and like getting married. And there was just one day where we were just hanging out and she was like, okay, let's get married. And I'm like, whoa, really? Because she was just like, she was very wary about it. Then I was like, all right, we got to act on this fast before she changes her mind. And so like we acted on it and went ring shopping and all that stuff. And another thing that I was just like, I love this woman is we were looking at all these rings that were expensive and she saw a ring that she really liked and she was like, this is it, this is the one. And I looked at the price tag and it was only $600 and I was like, oh yes, that's amazing. And then we were talking about it with the person at the desk and they're just like, actually this one's on sale for $450. And I'm like, even better. Like, this is amazing. So got a ring, and then we were looking at apartments and found the one that we're living in right now, and decided to go for it. And so I proposed to her here at the apartment, because it was just like, this is where we're going to start our new life, so it makes sense that this is where I ask you, like all that jazz. And obviously she said yes. So and then we got married 3 months later in Payson, and it's been great.
Good. I love
Mhm.
that so much. And what I love especially about this whole story is even with this like added factor of the other girl that it didn't work out with, in both instances, when you were comfortably just being yourself and not like worrying about what would happen or if either of them liked you, and you just like stepped into, this is me, this is who I am, this is how I
Yeah.
want to live, then they both were like, can I be with you?
Yeah, it's true.
And interesting that the girl was really hesitant in the beginning, and then when you felt like really into just who you wanted to be and not worrying about it, then that's what kind of made that shift for her as well. Like, is that accurate?
Yeah, she said she had been thinking about it, but she was just like, I didn't want it to be like, to make it seem as though like I was just wanting to get in a relationship with you because it was the holiday season, like that kind of a thing. And I was just like, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that, it's kind of just like I was up for dating her like the whole time. Um and so I think it was more just her, and this is definitely just speculation, but um like even just like being hesitant and kind of like not, even though she knew it was like a good thing, like it felt good, she hesitated on those feelings.
Mhm.
When like for me and Sarah, like once we felt it, like we didn't hesitate. We were just like, okay, let's go. Let's do
Mhm.
this.
And that's so often what I feel like holds people back the most, is like just them being in their own head about it and being like, well, they might think this, so I can't do, whatever. I can't express how I really feel. I can't say what I want to say
Yeah.
because I'm afraid of like what they'll interpret it as.
Right.
Which was actually something that both me and Christian expressed to each other when we were first dating, is that through a series of dumb games, like not necessarily games, but like circumstances, we had both assumed that the other one was not interested.
Hmm.
And we had both made a commitment independently to ourselves where we were like, you know what, assuming other people's feelings and intentions doesn't really work out, especially when it comes to dating. So instead of assuming or like trying to anticipate what's in their head or what's in their heart, I'm just gonna move forward with what feels good to me. And if they reject me, they reject me. And if they don't, then all the better.
Right. Yeah.
And that was the mentality that we both had, and it brought us together. And it sounds like, that's what really kind of held this other girl back, where that wasn't a barrier for you and Sarah, that you could just be really open and honest and yourselves with each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was really nice. Because Sarah does talk about how, because there were times where I was like, I was forward. Because I was, and I mean, I hadn't even proposed, or just like she hadn't even really agreed to like get married or like work towards that. And I was basically just like, Sarah, I don't think that you're a girl, like I don't want to marry a girl like you, like I want to marry you. And she was just like like kind of freaked out about that a little bit.
Yeah.
but I was like, I was pretty sure about my feelings. Like I was confident. And I think like it probably freaked her out at first. But once she saw that consistency from me, that I was just like, I'm not just saying it just to say it. Like I really do see this going somewhere. And it's like, you're the type of person that I want to be with. And like we talked about our non-negotiables that we went through and all that stuff. And she basically said that the moment she realized she loved me was when I said I wanted to be equal partners with my spouse. And she was like, oh, what? And I was just like, yeah, I do. So no, yeah, like me speaking my mind and kind of just giving Sarah that choice and that autonomy, like I feel like it helped a lot, because then I wasn't really expecting anything. I mean, like there's always a hope where it's just like, I hope they respond positively, but also at the same time, if they respond negatively, like I know it's not like me, it's more them and what they're going through.
Mhm. And is that something that you feel like you were able to do consistently in your dating past? Like just speak to what you wanted and openly and freely? Or was that something that you felt like you had to learn or what?
Oh, it was something I definitely had to learn, that's for sure. Because I grew up in a household where like emotions were like welcome, and like I could kind of speak my mind, but also at the same time, there were times where my parents were a little more authoritarian. And so it was like there were times where I couldn't speak my mind, and I had bad experiences of like telling people how I felt and then accepting that or that kind of thing. And so I was just like definitely learned about how, if like how people treat us is more about them than it does about us. Um, and so that was something I had to like unlearn and relearn. I'm just like, it's okay for me to say whatever I want. Um, if my intention, like if my intention isn't to hurt somebody else and then they take it in a negative way, like that's not on me.
Mhm.
And so like learning that like helped a lot, I think.
Good, good. And that's such a powerful skill to have, not just in dating, but in all relationships that you have.
Sure.
So looking back, if someone is kind of where you were before you started on this journey of that self-acceptance, that boldness in owning what you want to say and releasing how people interpreted it, and they're feeling scared and they're feeling like just that things aren't going to work out for them, and that their past experiences with dating or anything else is kind of disqualifying them from love, what would you tell them?
Um, that's a good question. The first thing that comes to mind is a phrase that one of my old coworkers used to say a lot, which is, "You're never inadequate, only inexperienced." Um, and so I like in this sense, like people that care more about what other people think about them rather than what they think about themselves seem like they're inexperienced in just being themselves around other people and like accepting that rejection. Because when it comes to rejection, it's basically like if you want that rejection, I feel like you get it less often because like you're open to it. And the people that like don't want to be around you or like super flaky, like you're going to be able to weed them out
Mhm.
faster. Because if there's like unrequited love, I don't understand in the slightest. I used to do it all the time, but looking back now, it's kind of just like, if there's a person who is dragging their feet about being with you and like you don't know for sure if they want to be with you or if they're just going to reject you, like, do you actually really want a relationship with that person? Like, not just a relationship, but like a marriage. Like, can you imagine if like you're getting married and the whether you're getting married in the temple or not, like if the the bishop or the priest or whoever it is just like, do you take this person for the rest of your life? And they're like, I don't know, like, I have to check, like, can I let you know on Wednesday? Like, you're just like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, you don't want a relationship with someone who's flaky around you or someone that doesn't know for sure if they like you or not. But the only way to get to that point of expecting someone else to like you for who you are is you have to like yourself for who you are. Like, it all starts with ourselves. Because I talk about this with my clients, is that whenever we feel like there's an external problem, it's because there's an internal problem.
Mhm.
And so, like with social situations or whatever it is, if you're going in there thinking that people are going to judge you for what you say or like how you're dressed or whatever it is, it's because you're already judging yourself
Mhm.
for those exact things. And so the more that you accept yourself and accept yourself the way that you are, and that doesn't mean you can't change if you don't like certain things about yourself, but the more that you be the person that you want to be and like love that person wholeheartedly, like if there are people that you know aren't going to accept you, like you'll avoid those people.
Mhm.
Because you're just like, from the get-go, I know that this isn't going anywhere and I care more about me than I do about them. Like, I literally just met them. So it's like, if they don't care about me, then it's kind of like, why am I wasting energy on this person to try and convince them to like me? I'm just going to go do my own thing. And the person that is meant for me is going to find me rather than me needing to find them.
Yeah. I have a good friend who is a business coach. And she said recently, kind of in this push that I'm seeing online, especially, and a little more as a society, of just kind of stepping into that and owning who you want to be, and being unapologetic about it, and valuing your own opinions over everybody else's. She says, remember that you're a magnet, and you attract things to you. You attract everything to you. And the same magnet who attracts also repels. And that's something that I think is really hard for especially singles to grasp, is just that it's okay to repel people. It's okay for people to repel you. You just, in that analogy I loved about the puzzle piece, like some pieces just don't work together and some pictures don't connect. And that's totally okay, because you get to create your own beautiful masterpiece.
Totally.
So for the people out there who are kind of resonating with that, and just like, okay, I'm feeling it. I'm scared and I have dealt with a lot of rejection, and I want to do that. I want to own who I am and be loved for who I am. What would you say is a good first step for them? And I mean, like, actual action that they can take.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is to, like, don't be afraid to ask for help, honestly. Because like, you've gotten to this point where you're feeling, it's like, okay, I'm resonating with these things. I'm noticing that they're sticking out to me. I want to take action, but I don't know what to do. then it's kind of like what I was talking about earlier with Matthew Hussey, where it's just like, okay, if you don't know what to do, like ask around, hire someone, like look for somebody who's an expert in whatever that field is in order to get help with that. And like I said, it's scary to kind of act on feelings rather than thoughts. But Bob Proctor has this quote that I really enjoy, and I've shared it with a lot of people, which is that faith and fear both require the same thing. They both demand that you believe in something you can't see. And I'm like, oh, I really like that. And it's kind of, the thing is that I feel like a lot of people, and I was definitely this way, it's just like they, rather than following their feelings, they follow their thoughts. But they're kind of the same thing in that you can't see them, but you tend to believe your thoughts more than you believe your feelings. But who you are is from the heart, is who you are, is how you feel. And what you are is kind of more your body. And so like we'll have two voices where the first voice is like, okay, I'm feeling good about this, like let's move forward in this. And then the second voice will come in and try to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't, and make you second guess yourself. And it's usually like the dumbest reasons. Like it's like the first voice is just like, hey, we should quit this job and go work somewhere else. And the second voice pops in and says, yeah, but if we quit, we can't go to the Cheesecake Factory party next Thursday. And it's just like, wait, are you serious? And so it's like I'd say the first step is to continue to follow the first voice, which is follow what feels good. Because that's actually you. That's your spirit and your awareness that's trying to like move you in the direction that not necessarily you're supposed to go, but is yours. And I say just take it and just do it. I wish I had like a green screen that I could stand in front of and just be just do it, like Shia, but
Shia LaBeouf.
But no, yeah, that's all I'd say is just like, and it's those small actions that feel big are the ones that make the most impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story. I cannot wait to share this with everybody else. And is there anything else that you want people to know about you, or any final thoughts you'd like to share?
If you want, you can follow me as well. I like to post inspirational thoughts and messages on my social media. I'm on Instagram, I'm DT Haycock. So D as in Dan, T as in Thomas, and then Haycock, Haycock. So you can follow me there, and then I'm sure as I still work on things and as I improve, like I have been feeling about moving to like YouTube and doing videos and all sorts of stuff. So I'm sure that will come down the line. But
perfect. Well, I highly recommend following Dan. We'll drop his handle in the show notes. And if you love this episode, give him a follow and reach out to me with your favorite takeaways, and keep spreading the love. Thanks, Dan.
No problem.